Hello and welcome to the Daily Atheist Morning Show. It is Tuesday, the 29th of February, of September 2020. Brain hurt now. Good morning, everybody. I'm your host, the amazing Super Chris. I've got Andy Hall from the Laughing in Disbelief blog over at Patheos. He's joining me, and Nokasuchi, the Rage from the Rage channel here on the YouTube. We're going to talk about Trump and their taxes and the criminals that they are and stuff like that. It's going to be all manner of fun right after this.
Oh my God. Jesus. Do you like it?
Sometimes you can choose to not be a dick. Yes. Thank you.
I can't take it off. I can't take it off. Like, take it off. I can't. Take it off. I can't take it off. Like, take it off. I can't.
All right. So good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for joining me. Andy, Nokasuchi, how are you guys doing today?
I'm real good. Real good. Thank you.
I'm going to say I'm good, but I may not be as good as Mr. Rage.
Not as good as Mr. I understand. Yeah. He's been dropping some Christians.
Yeah. It's been a good time. I'm going to have fun after the show today too.
So yeah. You know what? I tell you what. Let me do the thing real quick. Say hi to everybody, and then you can tell about this. Good morning, everybody in the damnation Junk Shop Library, Laughing in Disbelief. That's Andy. Phi, nice to have you with us. Slade Chimera, Lord Mayhemship, and Trina DeLuca. Trina, Andy is making me. Andy and of course the wife are making me do the show without my glasses, so I can't see. I am blind. It's all those years in my youth of happy time. They tell you not to do it, but it costs you in the end. Anyway, good morning, everybody in the damnation. Nice to have you with us. And then, of course, the people listening on the Daily Atheist Morning Show podcast live, thank you for that. And also the people watching on Facebook, thank you for joining us this morning. It's Tuesday, halfway to the hump day. Now, before we go too far, I don't want to forget because I will forget. Nokasuchi, you said you had something going on.
Well, yeah. At noon today, I'm going to do an instant premiere, so it's not on the channel yet. But tune in at noon. I'm going to show my most recent visit to Smokey Saint's channel, and in that visit, I had another atheist. This is an atheist, not Smokey was putting some slurs in there, but I was attacked with homophobic slurs. So I entered the room, and we had a conversation about it. I bleep out all the slurs, so it's a lot of bleeps. It's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, you'll want to tune in for that one.
It's good that you bleep out the slurs, because otherwise you'll get penalized.
And that's the funny thing. You see, I've been demonetized because I cover hate mongers. So I'll cover their hate speech and I'll combat it. And YouTube has said, well, that's my hate speech. I'm going to take away all advertising. So far, this video's up. As far as I know, it's nothing has been done to this video. On Smokey Saint stream. Now it's a 4-hour stream. It's at the very end, but still, I mean, the YouTube watchers, you seem really worried about us atheists, not so much about the Christians.
A 4-hour stream.
That's a long stream,
man.
Oh, that's almost every one of his streams. Yeah, he does the open rooms like I do.
Yeah. You guys, y'all are longer streamers. I ain't got no time for that.
Back in the day, I was doing 6 to 8 hours almost every day. So.
Yeah. And Dragnot Silvas, he's like that. You know, every time I'll hit YouTube to see who's playing, you know, and it'll show me a list of who's doing the thing at the place, and there'll be Dragnot. He's always live, you know. I mean,
he's usually going live.
Watch him drag.
Right after this show, usually at about 9:30, you'll get that notification from Dragnot, and 10 o'clock. So right after this show, go over and watch Dragnot. You'll have fun.
Gotcha. Trina says she wears contacts, blind as a bat without them. See, that's the deal. I got my eyes cut, so I can see really well. And you know, whenever it used to be like from here, but now it's more like from here beyond. It's got to be beyond that. I can't reach it with my arm anymore. So I got to show you with my leg how
I
far
have no
things
desire
have to
to see
be.
that leg, please. Please.
Hey, that's
Proof
that's
proof
like,
that Chris Mallard wears no pants on stream. So
true.
there you go.
This is a delicate color, tone of pasty. Anyway, so I mean, I can't see. I got my eyes cut, so I can like see the coffee pot over there. It's wonderful, and the dog is beautiful. Hello, dog, you're beautiful. But anything closer than like foot range, and it gets all fuzzilated. So.
I should be getting new glasses soon. So once I start wearing them, because I used to wear glasses, but people aren't used to it. So when I start wearing glasses, I'm expecting the freakouts. So
did you know? And this is just speculation on my part. I'm just guessing. The number files out there, hook us up with some numbers. I'm just guessing based on what I know. Tiny thing. That had Trump paid his taxes over the past 20 years, that amount would have been able solely to provide glasses and everything for every person in the United States. Can you imagine that the amount that he did not pay could have given everybody in the United States glasses and or eye care?
And imagine, yeah, that's just Trump. Imagine Trump's not really anything. Imagine Jeff Bezos, what he's not paying, you know.
That's true. That's true. I mean, so did you enjoy my segue from nothingness over here to Trump's taxes? That was cool.
That was a very good pivot.
That was a good transition.
I saw a program that my weed brain cannot remember where I saw it, but in the program they were talking about, you know what, you've got your general, normal, everyday old millionaire, billionaire kind of person, and they're pretty good at avoiding taxes and doing the loopholes, and they kind of sit right here as to what percentage they tend to pay. Trump is like way the hell over here. So, I mean, way less than even those guys. So even a cheat amongst cheats, Trump is way far outseeds. This is probably the most corrupt individual. You know, actually, they've been saying that these tax things say he's probably lost more money than anybody else in history up to that point, in American history anyway. That's a bad sign.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Well, he's just reporting losses, right? Now, here's the deal, though. If Trump is in debt, and Trump is in debt hundreds of millions of dollars to Deutsche Bank, and Trump is making hundreds of millions of dollars off of us because he's paying himself. So we pay our taxes to the government. He is taking a trip down to Florida and paying for all those Secret Service agents to sit in the Doral Hotel or whatever it is, the Doral place. He gets millions of dollars for that. So he charges the government millions of dollars, which he then thusly pays to Deutsche Bank, breaking it down simple for folk, who then give it to Russia. So they're literally giving it's like a tax dollar funnel from us to Russia.
He's a genius. He's an American genius. He's able to
figure out. He didn't come up with this.
He's able to figure out how to rob several people to pay other people so he can rob that person and pay off the other people. If like I said before, he is a Mark Twain character, a horrible Mark Twain character come to life.
Right. Well, what I want to know is, where is the outrage on the right? I mean, I don't care if he's your man. For 20 years, I have heard outrage about the poor single mother getting an earned income tax refund of $4,000, and here is this billionaire getting refunds of millions of dollars. No outrage. If you actually go and listen to Hannity yesterday, justifying it.
I know. Yeah. It's disgusting. Yeah. It doesn't seem to matter what they do. And they prime that. And that's why we got to stop somehow Fox News and these shows that are pumping out this misinformation constantly. There's got to be something about the First Amendment. All right, now the First Amendment, I'm studying public speaking, and there's a difference between freedom of speech and speaking ethically. And freedom of speech does not mean necessarily that you can speak unethically. And that's been something that's tossed around.
Tell me more about that.
As you know, there's a lot of way. Of course, people have certain people have tried to stifle other people's free speech throughout our history. It's happened, and then we're like, no, you can't stifle our speech. And now, yet here we are saying some people's free speech rights should probably be curtailed a little bit, or you should pay it. Like, I mean, It just can't go on. This constant pumping out of misinformation by Fox News and by these channels, these little AM stations, they're causing this war. This is the propaganda arm that is setting us up for a war between the right and the left. Is these misinformation gurus, these Joseph Goebbels all over the place pumping out their crap, and then the stations doing it. Across the country, these little rural people are listening to these radio stations and getting programmed to hate their fellow American. You know, it's one thing to hate the KKK. It's one thing to hate the Nazis, because the KKK and Nazis are bad guys. Bad guys, aren't they? Aren't they bad guys? They used to be bad guys. Anyway, they're bad guys.
They're
Captain America in the
call,
1950s beat them up. They're bad guys.
That's just what we call Republicans now. So when we point a finger and say you're racist,
mine is not flinging anything.
Sorry, guys. I forgot to turn that off. I got that. Blame Drag. It's Drag's fault.
I don't know. I think it's pretty fun.
And I was telling you guys before the show, like I was literally just kind of bantering in a side chat of a Christian stream where they're literally saying if you call out bigots, then you're bigoted. I mean, that's where we've gotten to. It is now like they're trying to make it wrong to call out a racist. It's wrong to call out the Nazis. That's wrong. You shouldn't do that. I mean, what world do you live in? Seriously.
Well, that's the thing, is that these people, people on the right are complaining about cancel culture when that's all they want to do to people who they don't agree with. They just want to silence. They just want to silence those voices and cancel them. It's just another example of right-wing hypocrisy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. I've always found that the right wing are the biggest snowflakes because they'll talk about us and our cancel culture, but I mean, they'll shoot a Keurig, right? They'll literally shoot
absolutely
a Keurig.
And, they'll set their own shoes on fire.
Yeah, they'll set their Nikes on fire. You know.
Thank you to Digital Demonic Davros for the $2 Australian of support to the channel. He says, "Laughing my ass off, not my monkey. Mine is not flinging anything, but ours are. Our monkeys fling everything here all the time. It's just monkey flinging
all the time."
That's the whole deal, though. Now, there's not seem to be anything. These people hate pedophiles. They hate pedophiles. Oh my God, they're so hard falling for this Q bullshit because they hate pedophile. And whenever it's talked about,
the thing is, in a behavioral kind of way, if you're going to look at a psychologist's papers, notes on a patient, they would probably say, like, try to talk about operant behavior, like how do they say they hate pedophiles? So that's how I always refer to these QAnoners. It's like they say they hate pedophiles. The Catholic Church says it hates pedophiles, but that's not what their actions show.
They hate liberals. They hate the liberal left. They have you bring up any of the plethora of things that Donald Trump has done that's suspect, and that's a nothing burger. Nothing burger.
Well, they've got this list of things that they hate, and pedophiles, and sexual immorality, and these kind of things that they all hate. They hate these things; they're so bad. And Donald Trump embodies most or all of these things. They hate the government. They hate paying taxes to the government. A lot of these guys are screw the police until now, and now all of a sudden they're for the police until the police pull them over, and they're like, "Why are you pulling me over? I don't have to wear a mask." I mean, it's. And then move on to taxes. They talk about their taxes. Mexicans, we don't like illegal Mexicans. And illegal Mexicans don't pay taxes. Illegal Mexicans pay more in taxes than Donald Trump does.
I don't know if you guys, good point. Pivoting about the police for a minute. I don't know if you guys saw the video of the ex-Trump campaign manager, Brad Markell.
I heard about it.
Getting like basically tackled. He's getting tackled by the police. And you know what? I want to talk to my white conservative brothers and sisters for a minute. It's like, if you don't think police violence is real, take a look at how they took this guy down. I have put people into physical restraints. I have restrained people, and I would never take someone who is like in a crisis and tackle them like that. This just shows you how violent the police are, how poorly trained the police are, and if they think that you're a threat, they will do things to you. And this guy was white. He was a Republican. Just imagine if he wasn't. white.
Well, a white elite class too. Yeah, not just white, but elite.
And they just threw him down. They just threw him down.
But one of the things is, and this is an argument you always hear from the right, is you don't know what happened before then. There was probably hours of them trying to had his guns, and they was arguing with him and trying to get him to do stuff. And this is how he was probably on meth. It off.
Yeah. I mean, he was probably on meth. That's what I mean. That's what they always say about the the black guys. Right? He's on meth. He's on crack.
I think, but the difference is he's still alive. He didn't get shot not once. Yeah. He claimed they were called because he was in the house armed. They knew he was armed and was upset and had problems. And why did he? I mean, the deal is if he had not been in that color, would he have survived? Would being a hard tackle have been the only thing he got?
And the thing is that hard tackle, once again, is unnecessary. What you're supposed to do is use the least restrictive force, right? So if a person is willing to comply verbally, if you need to usher them, if you need to grapple with them, but that guy was not physically aggressive at that time.
Yeah, I haven't seen the video, but
I don't know.
I want to go see the video.
For a knife or a gun or something.
I mean, I'm just saying
he was reaching.
It could be a good moment. We could use this. We could use this as an ad. Hey, this is what happens when you work for the Trump administration for too long.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That was kind of one of the deals. Now, moving back to the whole thing, did you guys watch? Are you familiar with? Let's just use one example. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if for those of you who are aware of what's going on with Trump and his taxes, about how all this is coming out with taxes, I believe it should be pointed out this is Trump's personal taxes, not Trump's businesses' taxes. So can you imagine how bad it's going to get if they ever got full access to all his stuff? And also something else I want to report. Notice how bad it looks. I mean, almost no taxes at all, millions of tax. I mean, claiming losses of hundreds of millions, lying. That's how bad it looks. You should also know that as bad as it does appear, this is actually Trump's official report to the government. This is his IRS thing. This is his thing. This is his best foot forward that he turned into the government, the IRS, before he owned the IRS. So can you possibly imagine the level of corruption that's not reported with this man?
Well, yeah, I commented on my social media yesterday that maybe I was wrong. Maybe Trump wasn't trying to hide his Russian interactions. Maybe he was trying to protect the American oligarchy, because if I start a business and it fails, it fails. But if these oligarchs lose money, well, they get more money from the government.
There's always more money for them. There's always more money.
Yeah. So I think what we're seeing here is the difference between the oligarchs and us, the normal people. And this should shatter this illusion of freedom that we have.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to, the things that have gone on, that's a good point, Raish. I mean, there's an illusion. We always, nobody's above the law, but we learned very quickly that actually,
a lot of people
are above the law. The president of the United States himself specifically, we got all these charges and we're waiting for him to be out of office. Why can't we arrest him now and then impeach him? Why doesn't that needs to be part of the law? If your president has done something wrong, he needs to be arrested, removed from office. You know what I mean? Or something of that nature.
That's become a narrative that even some on the left are embracing, that somehow Trump and Mueller didn't find wrongdoing with Trump's with Trump and Russia. And that's just so far from the truth. It's blatantly laughable. Mueller quite clearly said, yes, I did find wrongdoing, but under the guidelines, I cannot indict a sitting president. Right. That's the only reason. So this narrative that like he did nothing is just wrong. And I hear a lot of people on the left saying it as well.
The problem with our side, or one of the many problems with our side, is that we liberals focus too much on the quote unquote law and not enough on politics. Mm-hmm. We are the people who cannot wrap our minds around the fact that we're like grammar Nazis in a lot of ways, right? And I've had this conversation. Just stay with me for a minute or two. So I've had this conversation with many times that basically grammar is just mob rule. If you get enough people to agree with your position, then guess what? A meaning of a word or the way that you use a comma changes because a certain amount of people agree to that one. You only need a certain amount of people. And so we get focused on the law and saying they can't do this or they can't do that. Or if this happens, we're just going to have to bring them to court. While the other side knows that politics dominates the law in the system that we're in right now. And they're all about energizing hearts and mind and energizing people on the streets and getting their stuff done, getting their talking points in the media and getting their policies executed.
Right. We have a question here. Do you guys think Trump's the only one tax evading? Of course not. Absolutely not.
You know, this is
That's
of course
not a point.
And this is an endemic problem, and this is the problem that I'm gonna bring it back to the Roman Empire, and the fact that the Roman Empire couldn't grab taxes, couldn't get taxes from its elite. What they would do is that the Roman Empire would do, you'd have to pay taxes supposedly year after year, but every 5 years or every 7 years, I forget exactly the amount of time, that you'd be given a tax holiday, and whatever taxes you owed, you wouldn't have to pay. So you simply could have just stonewalled the Roman government for 5 years and not pay any taxes, and then they give you a tax holiday. So who the hell pays taxes then? Who pays taxes then? The whole system collapsed. It imploded, right, just like ours is doing, because it just isn't. There isn't enough money in the system, in the federal government, in the state government.
That's true. But one of the points I want to make is not that, and this is from Bahram E podcast, from he's a listener over on our podcast. Says, do you think Trump's the only one tax evading? That's not really the point. We know lots of tax evaders. We already mentioned it on the show that Trump is like one of the biggest, hugest of tax evaders, but that's not really the deal. And also, to answer Flow State's question, were his tax is fraudulent? Almost certainly. And that's what I was saying. Even his best foot forward is fraudulent and still criminal.
You have to do research the Panama Papers.
Yeah, absolutely. But one more thing, this is really the deal, is it's not necessarily, all right, sure, he avoided his taxes. Man, he's like the bad guys who've avoided his taxes. That's not the deal, though. What the tax papers show is that he personally owes hundreds of millions of dollars to foreign people.
Yeah, and I want to talk to, once again, my conservative-leaning friends, and saying that, I know someone who works for the NSA, or who worked for the NSA, and they had to go through a pretty rigorous system finding out whether or not they owed too much money to certain people. Because if you're beholden to debtors, then guess what? Those debtors have power over you. Now, if we do this for our national security people, wouldn't you want that for the president of the United States too?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. And to the point, like, is Trump the only one doing this? Hell, no, this is the oligarchy. Like I said, like, research the Panama Papers. Right. This country is losing about $200 billion a year in tax revenue because rich people are putting their money into offshore accounts.
Yeah. Again, I just kind of want to shine. We got a lot we're trying to shine on this whole thing about he's putting money into offshore accounts like he's some sort of thug. But I'm trying to point out that, yes, that's true. But the tax papers, what they really show is that the man who's trying to stir a civil war in our nation from the presidential pulpit owes hundreds of millions of dollars to Deutsche Bank, which is in part owned by Russia.
I wouldn't say that that's news, Chris. We've known that for a long time.
No, I know. But that's what these papers are proving. The proof is here. We've known that. We've known that.
What I think that the taxes are showing that's new is the oligarchy of America. Like this billionaire who should be paying a shit ton of taxes. Let's be honest. He should be paying a shit ton of taxes. Is not only not paying anything, he's getting refunds. I mean, that's to me, that's the news of this. I mean, the dude, he might as well be getting about that forever, though.
He might as well be getting food stamps from the government.
Yeah, it's corporate welfare is what it is.
Absolutely. And while at the same time, this gentleman who is sucking our country, literally plundering our nation to the tune of billions of dollars, is also stirring a civil war between our people. and he's doing it at the behest of a foreign power. I'm not saying that what you claim about him is not bad. I'm just saying there's another light. We got multiple lights to shine on this situation. And again, I guess the fact that now other people know, how are our conservative friends going to react to this? That he, like Trump's Nokasuchi said, didn't pay taxes. They paid more taxes. Trina DeLuca says, knowing that I pay more taxes than my president kills me, and I make shit. I mean, that's crazy. $750 in taxes.
Well, yeah, they're never gonna see the Russian connection. So, like speaking of Deutsche Bank, we had pings off of their server related to Donald Trump during the election. Didn't matter to them. It didn't matter to them. Now we literally see that he is in debt. And let's be very clear. Deutsche Bank is an offshoot of the Russian government. He is in debt to the Russian government. He is in debt to the Russian oligarchs. So yeah, I mean, this is all, but they don't care about it. Like, they just don't care because they actually like Putin now. Putin's their dude.
I know. Yeah, he helped them get into power. He's wagging the dog through them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He's helping them. So yeah, I mean,
back in the 60s, was it the 50s? Was it the Rosenbergs?
Yep. I believe it was the Rosenbergs. Or just look at the Rockefeller. I mean, this American oligarchy. This is nothing new that we've been. But at least now we're fighting against it. And now, I mean, because of Trump, honestly, when all this is said and done, we've got paper evidence now. Like it's being exposed before our very eyes right now.
And what the whole thing you're saying is true. There's an existing oligarchy that we've been through. There are liberals, there are conservatives, there are these people who are in charge now. I have conservative friends that are not represented by what's going on with this president and this current conservative government. And I keep wanting to point out that this is not a conservative government. This is a Tea Party government. This is a Tea Party.
It's an
extreme right Tea Party government that does not represent the right, what the right, as I know, the right to be. It's a fraction.
I had a conversation with one of my kids the other day because the three of us were watching TV about what the real right, who the real Republicans were. And I told her, I said, I've seen 3 iterations of the real Republicans. 1, Barry Goldwater. 2, which was like a real fiscal conservative. And of course, you can't win in America, even back then, as a quote unquote fiscal conservative. 2, Reagan Republicans, who were just, screw fiscal conservative, being a fiscal conservative. And then, of course, the newest iteration is Donald Trump, which is Reaganism on freaking crack and meth for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, it's the corporate gutting of America under Trump now is basically what we're seeing, and I think I've said this often. I think it's because they see the writing on the wall. There are major movements against the oligarchy, against racial injustice, against police brutality. They see the writing on the wall. So as you've said, Andy, several times now, we're just witnessing the land grab now, the grab of property, the grab of power. They're trying to get as much as they can right now because they know the shit's about to hit the fan.
Yep.
And something else we've seen traditionally, and I said this whenever Trump took office. I mean, every time the conservatives have held the House, the presidency, and the Senate, our economy has tanked. Every single time, not a little bit. I mean, every depression we have ever sustained has been just after conservatives completely.
It takes a moderate Democrat to fix that now, right? Like every time we have to.
Not only does the economy tank, but their side, the oligarchs, get stronger because the oligarchs aren't going to run out of money. They'll get bailed out while the rest of us get weaker. So if you're going to graph this out, the middle class, lower classes, anyone under the 1% get weaker. Every single one of these crises occur, but the oligarchs get stronger. It's almost as if it's intentional.
Well, and it's how old money stays old money. That old power. I mean, people talk about the Kennedys, like you're literally talking oligarchy when you do. Like, I mean, these powerful family institutions that we've set up and glorified over the years, that they're part of the problem. We've got to fight against it all, and we can't have our blinders looking on at the other side. We have to look at our side. The problem is the left does that, the right doesn't.
Right. Well, right now we've got the issues of what we've learned that's coming out. Let's kind of take it back to the whole Trump family. We know that's kind of where I was going earlier. Trump, he can't be arrested, but can't his children be arrested? Is that true? Can they or can they not?
Probably not with him in power. I mean, they could be arrested, but nothing would be done.
Well, once again, the president has the power only to pardon federal crimes. If
right.
children were found to commit state crimes, then I don't think realistically the president has official power. But politics is everything now. So who knows what happens?
The IRS has the ability to arrest people. The mail service, the U.S. mail service, have their own investigators and agents and stuff
but those
like
are all
that who can arrest
crime.
people.
Trump could just
that's true, but that doesn't mean they wouldn't do it.
Oh, yeah.
And they shouldn't do it. And but again, where was her crime? Now, see, back to the deal about the Trumps. Trump might not be able to be arrested now, but his children could. And even if they don't, like Eric Trump's supposed to be in court on the 7th of October. Anybody here think he won't be there?
No, yeah, probably not.
And you know what? What happens if he doesn't go? What are they going to do? Nothing. They're not going to do anything. He's going to go, you know what? I'm not going. What are you going to do to me? And just go away. Why don't we do that? Why can't we do that? Because they would kick in our freaking doors and arrest us.
I don't have enough money. That's why.
Yeah.
That's the simple reason. I don't have enough money.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty much forced into our daily routines. Capitalism dictates it. So while we are slaves to capitalists, the oligarchs are the opposite. They're free of it.
Yeah.
So we should get, I would like to see, I don't see why in any other case it wouldn't be. Now it has been publicly exposed by Trump's tax records that he and Ivanka should be in jail. She should be arrested and then bailed out by an attorney, and then she should be awaiting trial.
I do believe that Ivanka has immunity right now because of her position.
Why?
Because she's in the White House. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that she has sovereign immunity, just like the president. I could be wrong about that.
No, that's what I'm thinking. That's the question I'm asking. Does everybody in the White House suddenly have immunity and they can do anything they want?
I think that if you work for the administration, I could be wrong, but I do believe if you work for the administration, you have a certain level of immunity. Yeah, to make and carry out those decisions. So, but it doesn't mean, and that's one of the reasons this election is so important, not just for Ivanka, but for Trump. Yeah, a president is not going to set the precedent to go after a president, but we know the state of New York is going after Trump, and if he gets another 4 years, they're not going to be able to. So, I memean, we will be able to get these people, hopefully, once they lose power. But this election is so important; we got to get them out of power.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Even if symbolically, IRS, do your job. If it were me, if it were Andy, they'd be coming after us. Absolutely. We would already know by now. I was raised to have a very distinct fear. My dad had a very distinct fear of the IRS.
I forgot for a couple of years to go turn in my state thing because, you go do your taxes and they fill out everything. And then they go, oh, here, you got to go turn this into your and I forgot to do it. Not my state, but my city. And I forgot to do that for a couple of years. And guess what happened? A police came and then I had to go and I had to pay money or I was going to go to jail.
They're for real.
Yeah, they weren't playing around.
I was like, for many years, I worked in the oil field and I was one of these low level workers. I only claimed 0 or 1. They took out lots of money out of my thing. I never had to pay taxes. I always got money back. So, a few years, I was like, I don't care. I just didn't pay no attention. And now 1 year, they're going to come after me if I don't do my taxes. So I hired this little bookkeeper lady and she did my taxes and they paid me like $1,000 because this year was $300 and this year was $200 because they always owe me. But even though they always owe me, they were coming after me to do my freaking taxes. How did Donald Trump get away so long? How come there were no investigations over? I know Nokasuchi's answer, brother. I appreciate you. I love you. The bureaucracy of I get it every time, brother. I feel you. But I mean, why? Well, there's more than that. That's the answer. But there's an individual, a name that is represented, and that individual needs to be in prison. And there's another individual, because this spanned many years, and it changed. These people didn't investigate, or they didn't do their job, and they should be investigated themselves and be in prison to show the next bastard that he can't get away with that. The next IRS investigator cannot get away with that shit. He will go to jail if he. Isn't that how it works? I thought that was how it's supposed to work.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about, oligarchy, how do these people get to this elevated status? It took decade after decade after decade of both political franchises selling out and allowing this oligarchy to get this power. I mean, this isn't a right thing did, the right did this or the left did this. They did this cohesively together over the course of several decades.
The nature of corruption is that it's corrupt. And if you have a system with corruption baked in it and incentivizes corrupt individuals to do corrupt things, then this is the logical conclusion of what happens. It started off, I know it didn't start off, but it accelerated under Reagan and the tax cuts. And when everyone realized, hey, we don't have to pay taxes, or we can underfund the government. And what it did was that, the rich people never pay taxes to begin with. But paid less taxes than everyone else. But what it did was that it corrupted the middle class into believing that no one had to pay taxes. And so people in the middle class suddenly started believing that they were going to be someday millionaires, that they were going to be just millionaires in waiting for all intents and purposes. And so, this is what caused it. I mean, this is one of the things that accelerated was the Reagan tax cuts. And this is what we have today.
Oh yeah.
I agree.
Well,
yeah.
It's not this obviously today is not a one-time thing. I mean, it's cumulative, obviously, over the course of, and that's a good point you make, Andy. Is it the rich never really pay the taxes that they always, I'm going to go buy a new car and I'm going to charge that car to the business. Right. And then, you know what? I got to be honest. I do that. I'm a business person. With my business, I'm like, you know what? I bought this new microphone and I'm going to charge off the new microphone for the business. Isn't that the way it's actually supposed to work? But, if I was charging off luxury flights to South Africa or to kill animals and bring those animals back, and I was charging all that off, claiming it was a business expense, and then talking about killing animals on the show, does that suddenly make it? I mean,
I just want to talk about the pernicious effects of
hurts my brain,
which I don't know if I've talked about before. Back in the day, once you made a certain amount of money, let's say you made over $1 million a year, then you would get taxed very heavily on the amount you made after that, 80%, 75%, something like that. But once the Reagan tax cuts stopped that, that's when you had companies starting to pay their CEOs hundreds of millions of dollars. So before the Reagan tax cuts, companies would be reinvesting that money. They'd be reinvesting that money into workers, into their infrastructure.
That's
because true. It would make no sense to pay their top people hundreds of millions of dollars if it's just going to go to the federal government.
Yep.
And yeah.
Well, I totally agree. And but
it was better.
Reagan, for being the hero of the fiscal conservative right, like they really seem to forget that man was the red tape king. Like he spent money we didn't have left and right.
Oh yeah.
Trickle down economics don't work because of exactly what Andy just said. The top isn't taxed, so they get to keep all their money. So why would you trickle it down now when you can keep it at the top?
When you can keep it, and if it becomes problematic, you can just store it offshore. We don't talk about that though. I want to say thank you to Trina DeLuca. She says, I've been a pro-Trump for years, hardcore pro-Trump. We're just weeks away from the election and I'm pulling back little by little. I can't be the only Republican doing so. Girl, you are not. There's this whole thing called the Lincoln Project. We run their commercials. I'll run one in just a second. You'll see that these are all hardcore Republicans who have turned away from Trump because he's not a Republican. He's a Tea Party person. And they realize that. It's hard to tell sometimes because you share similar values on a lot of things and they capitalize on that. So I just want to mention that's kind of the case. And I'll run one of those.
The great thing about the Lincoln Project too is, I'm looking forward to working together to defeat fascism so we can once again beat at each other's throats over war.
Also, I want to point out that if and I'm not trying to, I hate to do this, but I would encourage you or people who feel that way about Trump to look to Biden for the same reasons why people like me don't like Biden. I'm really kind of more of a Bernie person, and I don't like Biden because he's more like what real conservatives are supposed to be than any other conservative.
He's a moderate. He's a moderate.
The people who are Republicans living in swing states, if you cannot hold your nose and vote for Biden, then vote right in somebody. As long as you're not voting for Trump, that's a net loss for the Republicans.
That's a good point too. That's a good point. I'm going to vote. I think yes, they should be in jail. Yes. To the thing we are going. Yeah. So that's one of the deals. Yeah, because Biden reminds me, and I've said this so many times, Biden reminds me of what I think of as an old guard Republican. Whenever asked about healthcare for America, no, he didn't want to give healthcare to, even whenever the panic was blowing up, he was so concerned about the business side of America, I guess, or the pharmaceutical side or whatever, that he was willing to, on stage with Bernie Sanders, go, you know what? What we can do is any costs you incur from the virus, we, the government, will pay. And Bernie's like, that's not good enough. We need national single payer health. And he's like, no, we will do this. That just screams old guard Republican, because like I said at the time, little old granny's going to get a cold or the flu, and she's going to go down to the doctor, and she's going to be like, I think I got the COVID, and they're going to test her. And they're, no, you ain't got the COVID, and give her medicines or whatever. And just the doctor visit alone is going to crush her, because they're going to make her pay for it because she didn't have the COVID. Because Biden specifically said they're only going to pay for it if you have the COVID. It's like this little trap to get these people who wouldn't have gone to go. I mean, it's just, I just don't feel Biden represents the left as much as he represents the right of the 90s. The right of the 90s.
I will say this. I'm looking at the 538 Politics site, and they're giving Biden a 78 in 100 chance to win, which is slightly more than what they've been saying, 76, 77 for the last couple of days. It'll be interesting to see what happens after the first debate.
Yeah, and I'm kind of glancing at the chat. I think we got somebody in the chat that might have watched Hannity yesterday. Larry Joe, stop watching Hannity. That would be my advice to you, because I listened to Hannity yesterday. I heard what he had to say, and
well, stop listening to Hannity. Because we talked about this before the show about how people gish gallop, right? How people on the right basically word F your ears, and they say incredibly insipid things within 5 minutes. You can hear. I was listening to Don Jr. do the same thing that Ben Shapiro does or William Lane Craig does. They just say like strings of crazy words, all at once. And people, if you're it's very easy for certain people to get fooled because they just get washed over with these words. And all of a sudden they just say, well, this person has to be making smart words with mouth because bullet points and information, which my brain can't fact check because it's coming in too fast.
Yes. But we can do that too. Hey, if you're on the right, what about paying off porn stars? What about his lawyer being in jail for paying off a porn star, admitting to paying off a porn star? What about paying his daughter taxes? We can just start hitting you with things. But wait a second, you didn't answer the second question, and therefore you must be conceding the point that paying off porn stars is right. So you lose, bro. There's no doubt. I mean, we can go on. But the thing about that we learned from this lesson is that. Now, Trina is a wonderful example of a good one. Matter of fact, Trina, there you go. You saw it. There are conservatives out there. It does not
what
matter.
The hell is a stupid question from Flow State? Is empathy a virtue you want in a president? For his own people, you do. What kind of idiocy is this for people who don't look the same as you do? Of course it is. The thing is, let me continue. The thing is, we are evolved as a species. You can talk to any evolutionary psychologist that empathy is the thing that makes us work as a species. We work together. Right. The glue is empathy. This is an idiotic idea that the right pushes, that the idea that you're empathic is that you're weak. I say no. I say this is just propaganda. That's all this is. The idea that empathy is a weakness. Go back to middle school. Go back to middle school where that idiocy lives in. Jesus freaking Christ.
You have to have some level of both strength and empathy.
I believe that this kind of idiocy is just pumped out there.
Yes. Well, and let us not forget that Stormy Daniels has received more money from Donald Trump than the federal government has.
Yes. Oh, I want to point out before I forget, let's just I noticed something put out by Robert Reich yesterday that Trump paid like tens of thousands of dollars. Please let me finish, Andy. Stop interrupting me, dude. Stop. Trump has paid thousands and thousands of dollars to the Philippines. He's paid thousands of dollars in taxes to other nations and not us. So I just want to point that out. If you're on Trump, he pays taxes to other countries, but not to the U.S. Andy, go for it.
So that's what happens. That's how you should deal with someone who gish gallops you. is that you just fucking take the most stupid point that they do, and then you just hammer F them in the sideways.
Just keep at them. That's the lesson to be learned.
Yeah, that's all.
Well, and it does get super tiring when you see it all the time, and they're, oh, you don't know nothing about taxes, or should a president be empathetic? And like, seriously, yes. I mean, what kind of question even is that? Of course, a president should be empathetic, because if not, well, then if it's a left that doesn't have empathy for the right, then we start going after you guys. And if it's you guys that don't have empathy for us, then you start coming at us. There's no balance of power there. There's no equality there.
Flow State's been masturbating to Jordan Peterson lately, because he's figured out that he understands what inverse means. There's an inverse relationship between compassion and strength. Because that's what I read about lobsters and being strong and not. Oh, this is Christmas morning.
Well, I do think it's a good sign that you're starting to get the oppositional trolls coming in. That means that you're hitting a nerve there, Chris. So.
Well, we're starting to try to. Well, again, you guys and I had a discussion a week or so ago. All right, guys, we're going to kind of move directly away from religion and move specifically libtard, anti-Trump, and what's going on, anti-fascist, all that. And this is what happens. No, I'm not talking about Flow State necessarily. I'm talking about more like those other people. You guys know we have them coming in, the trolls and stuff like that. I can't believe that some people support X, Y, and Z. And yet I talked to my buddy Nokasuchi, who says that he debates regularly with Christians, self-proclaimed Christians who believe in slavery or believe in racism or who justify these things. And
they'll literally justify the ancient Israelites, taking the sword to babies, like.
You should really feel sad for those Nazis killing those people. They're the ones who really suffering. That's a great argument right there.
Absolutely. Well, that's one of the things about being tolerant and being intolerant of tolerance and intolerance of intolerance. Like, how can us people on our left protect ourselves from the Nazis? Forgive the expression. I'm going to go right to the Nazis. How can we, if the majority of the people on the left kept with we don't address violence. We're not going to be violent. We don't talk bad about people. Well, they're over there talking bad about you. They will use the rights you give them to oppress and murder you, but you won't use the same rights to defend yourself with. And that's kind of the thing.
You get that on all sides. They do it with religion. Atheists need to be better than that, and we need to. I play by the same rules that they play with. So if the right is playing dirty, well, the right has been winning, and we have been losing, and it's time we play the same game.
Once again,
playing the same game, you have the same rules.
It's the idea, and I've heard this so many times, is that. Liberals will say things like, well, he didn't really win. Well, he won the contest that mattered, which is the electoral college. Now, you can say
he got the power.
But that's the thing, is that liberals have been fighting via the law without fighting via politics, and that is winning hearts and minds. And that's our business. That's what should be our business. I mean, we should be in the courts too, but we have to be winning hearts and minds.
Andy, you used an analogy just the other day, though, talking about the difference between how liberals. It's like football. The conservatives will just keep scoring. They score. They got 45 points to nothing, and they'll just
score. You always have to be.
But whenever it comes to the liberals, they don't. They're like, oh, well, we've got 21 points and you've got 14 points, and we don't want to make you feel bad. We're going to win, so we'll just stop playing hard. And the next thing you know, the conservatives get it up, and they're like, bam, 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 and they'll win, and they won't have the mercy.
You always have to try to dominate the other side. I mean, that's just how it is.
That's what we need in liberal politics. In liberal politics, we need to get that, like you said, that
it's the trouble with how can you be intelligent with a nuanced view of the world and still be assertive and aggressive at the same time. It's possible, and what it is following the data. It's as against to these preconceived ideas. And once you follow the data, it shows that you have to be aggressive. You have to be assertive at times.
Absolutely.
It means that you can be empathic as well as aggressive, depending on the certain situation. It is not all or nothing. It isn't all one thing or the other thing.
We've got a comment again from the don't tell me I know this. The Podbean live stream is that we need to take the red pill. They say they are all puppets. They make they make useful idiots of all of us to divide and conquer. Actually, to be honest, Nokasuchi has been praying that talking about that red pill this whole time. That's his whole song and dance is that red pill.
Yeah. I'm fairly, anti both. So like I think that there's
red pillars just people who are stuck in their mom's basement basically, and
I hate the term red pill.
More Jordan Peterson, more red pills. I'm gonna be
I hate the fact that conservatives have taken the red pill analogy. I mean, to me, it's one of the worst travesties when it comes to the Matrix of all time. Well, I hate it.
My red pill brothers and sisters and say the fact that you do not follow the data, the fact that what you're doing is just, well, like I said, being in your mom's basement as against you trying to actually figure out how the world works.
Yeah, well, I think that there is definitely, if people could get over this whole team sport thing, that there's actually room where conservatives and liberals could get together because there's populist movements happening on both. We don't trust the government. If we could get past the hot button issues, we could actually unite and take our government back. The problem is the right doesn't want to get past those hot button issues like abortion and guns and stuff like that.
The oligarchy wants to keep us separated. The oligarchy wants to keep us separated as they rob the country blind.
Yeah.
As they rob the country blind. This is their
That's true. Yep. Well, what Nokasuchi said was just exemplary of what we just said was the problem. He's like, we want to get together and we want to be friendly and we want to get the conservatives and we want to sit down and everybody have fun and we're going to hug and everybody get together. Nobody on the right is saying that. They're going to go there right now. They're going, you know what? We need to gain political power and shut those guys up as much as they can. To hell with those libtards. In the future, it'll be like harsher. That they have no care. There's no come to the plate with them at all. There's not an interest. Old guard Republicans, conservatives, yes. There was a balance, a give and take between old guard Republicans but nowadays it's not. You're dealing with the Tea Party. It's all me or nothing.
And that's the problem. The problem is a government. To them, the problem is libtards. So they will never unite with us, even though we have issues that could bring us together.
Right.
Because they'll scream the government, but their issue is with the left.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, we're supposed to be a two-party system, but they don't want the other party. We don't want the other party now because the other party's been overrun by Tea Party and blah, blah.
Voltaire said that basically when you have two different groups, two parties, it eventually ends into a knife fight. I mean, I'm paraphrasing.
Not wrong.
Basically talking about the benefits of a parliamentary system versus, I believe he was talking about the benefits of a parliamentary system, or maybe religious liberty. The idea that you only have two groups in competition with each other, it does devolve into a knife fight between those two at that point.
Well, and the fact that righties are commenting about how we're being so lefty here actually makes it, that's why I come here. This is my hour to be a lefty because the rest of my day is spent on Christians.
And the thing is, there's a lot of atheists in America who don't understand the connection that if you're a Republican, you are bad at being an atheist, that you are an anti-atheist. You're voting against your own interests. You're voting against the interests of your children. You're voting for the interests of your parents. That's what you're doing. If you're an atheist, you are just as stupid as a Trump supporter.
Well, you are literally voting with the enemy.
Yeah, you're voting
with the enemy.
Yeah, voting against your own interests. There's like a pamphlet going around this voting questionnaire going, should people who don't believe in God be drugged from their streets and hung? And you're going, I don't really believe in God, but those guys.
I really like the tax cuts. I think the tax cuts are great.
Go ahead.
I don't know, man. I was just going to say you can watch Andy teabag more conservatives tomorrow on this show. Thank you very much.
Yes. All right. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. So you got anything going on, Andy? I got other stuff.
Believe it or not, I just don't yell at the screen all the time. I actually have a dog trainer coming in on Thursday. We're going to have a lovely conversation, about puppies and dogs and how to train your dogs and how to be a good dog owner. Well, not a dog parent, maybe. Is that the current term as against to an owner? Let's go with that, with a good puppy parent, a good dog parent, how to train your dog. You got questions about canines? You should come on my channel 11 a.m. I believe on Thursday. And of course my blog, it's fantastic. Laughing in Disbelief on Pathos, where I roast conservatives mercilessly.
For fun. It's
fun and profit.
Hey, there you go. Well, you got to be capitalist, right? Don't let them down.
Yeah.
Nokasuchi, what you got
Yeah,
going
well,
on, bro?
I talked a little bit about noon. At noon, I'll be premiering a video. It's going to be a good one. So come join me at noon. Tomorrow, we'll have an open room, bring a topic. And then Thursday, I have a debate with Gavin Herleman, 8 p.m. on Smokey Saint's channel. Smokey Saint will be moderating. And this is going to be classic. So, yeah.
So this is just going to be a dumpster
up.
fire. That's what I'm hearing.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a lot of betas. Gavin has literally said that I myself, this pretty face, is the definition of beta. So it's going to be interesting. So,
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I'm just a normal thing for me going and doing that voodoo that I do. So I'm just going to go do it. So I hope I thank you to you guys for being on the show with me today. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Sammy Jenkins, haven't seen you around. Kind of Flow State, I know you're a contrary personality. I understand. Appreciate you. Thank you for being there.
Yep.
All you people, appreciate your questions and your comments in the chat. And to the people who listened this morning on the Daily Atheist Morning Show podcast live, you guys are awesome. Facebook, everybody on Facebook. Y'all have a wonderful day, and we will see you tomorrow for Hump Day. We'll have a John, I promise not to forget John Funk tomorrow.
John's a great guy. Fantastic.
Oh, yeah. I just forgot to send him invites last week. I'm a bad person. So I'll see you guys later. Have a great day.
Be strong.